Hello, welcome to the Basketball Soapbox. I'm your host, Daniel Daly. As we start this one, we're going to be talking about the NBA play-in, which has been awesome. So that's what episode 40 is, the play-in recap. We're just going to recap the first round of the play-in. A lot of great games happening right now, and I love it, and the play-in has been awesome. And especially, let's start with the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Timberwolves. The Lakers ended up getting a 108-102 victory over the Timberwolves in a very highly contested game, a game that was sloppy at times. A lot of things going back and forth. And Minnesota was up big in this game, up 15 points, really had control of this game. And they really just lost a lot of opportunities. I think they went on a 6-minute drought there in the fourth quarter, just not able to score and just not able to run a good offense. And despite some things going on there, I felt like they had many chances to win the game. The Lakers were giving them every chance to win the game, turning over the ball, missing shots, even shabby offense on their end. But Minnesota went there for like a 6-minute mark in the fourth quarter where they just couldn't get a bucket. And the Lakers defense is one of the best in the league since the trades they made. Obviously, that's a big factor. Going up against the Lakers with Anthony Davis and Jared Vanderbilt and Austin Reeves, all these guys that can cover and defend and do all these things. But when they're running their offense in the day that Anthony Edwards doesn't have it, clearly doesn't have it. It looks like something was wrong with his shoulder over the course of the game and stuff like that, and he's really just not having it. And late in the game, they constantly try to go to Anthony Edwards and let him create some offense with Cat. They try to post up Cat a couple of times, and it's just like, from that standpoint of that offense and stuff like that with Minnesota, when you're getting stagnant offense, the guy that had it going, the two guys that had it going over the course of the game, Mike Conley, Taurean Prince, did not touch the ball really. They really didn't get a chance to get the ball, and I felt like that was an error on coaching, right? Like where Anthony Edwards clearly doesn't have it. I think he was 3 for 17 on the night. He doesn't have it. Karl Anthony Towns had a big first half and then ended up getting the foul trouble and then just lost his way in the second half. Really didn't have anything. They would pass it to him, and he really couldn't get anything inside, even when they switched a smaller guy on him. And there were times when they couldn't even get him the ball to post up. Like he was getting pushed off the position. That's just not his game. But in that game, when Mike Conley is 6 for 7, I believe, from 3-point range at that time, probably your best passer, probably your best initiator. That's why you brought him there. They kept trying to go to Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, and it's like, you guys should have probably went with Mike Conley in those pick and roll situations who had a big game, and I'll get into his free throws later in this conversation. But it's like, at that point, when you're not getting any points, you're turning over the ball, everything's looking bad. Give it to your best player on the night, who was Mike Conley, in my opinion, most steady player. Get him the ball and let him facilitate and initiate the offense. And I feel like that's something that even last year they had issues with. Charles Barkley pointed it out all the time on TNT, like they were just playing stupid basketball. They just take a lot of jumpers. And they fell into that trap again against the Lakers in the game where they were up 15. They had every opportunity to win, and they dropped the ball on that end, right? Like, they just dropped the ball, in my opinion. I felt like they could have won that game quite handily if they just got a couple easy buckets there. And they just didn't. And that's going to be haunting them for probably the rest of the playoffs. I mean, they're going to have a difficult matchup coming in there on Friday with Oklahoma City. So that's going to be a tough matchup for them as well. I just don't see how not winning that game, you don't have a lot of rest of it. I think they would have been playing Sunday. So that would have been Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday off. Whatever's going on with Anthony Edwards, you would have been able to go into that Western Conference matchup on Sunday fresh. You would have been fresh. You would have had a better chance of that. Now you have a game on Friday where you have a tough turnaround. I don't know if they play. I don't think the NBA is going to be cruel and make them play Saturday. I don't think that's the case. I hope not. I think it might be. I got to check the schedule. But if they do, that's a quick turnaround. But then to sit there and be like, hey, you guys are going to play on Saturday or Sunday. I mean, the first round is a little bit spread out, so I think they probably would even play Monday. Hopefully the NBA does that. But in terms of what it could have been for the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's just not. And they missed a lot of shots, took a lot of bad shots, had opportunities late, but just couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. And especially you get big games from everybody. Like Kyle Anderson had a good game, a solid game, 12 and 13 on the night. Taurean Prince had 14. Mike Conley had 23. and especially most importantly, the last couple free throws there at the end of regulation, which I will also get into. But let's move to the Lakers side of things. They were able to squeeze this one out, able to win and basically go on to face Memphis, which is a promising matchup for them rather than going into the top half of the bracket. They're now on the side of Memphis, who is without Steven Adams, without Brandon Clark. You have Golden State, who has been up and down all season, and now you're on that Sacramento side of bracket. So the Lakers definitely opened up their window to get to the Western Conference Finals, possibly the finals. They did open up that window, at least with this win. But let's get into LeBron, who was fantastic offensively. Shot the ball well, had a good pace, had some struggles there late in the game where he turned it over. But overall, over the course of the game, to get them back in the game and really put them in a position to win, he did that. But a big guy that played well, even though Anthony Davis also had a big game. Dennis Schroder had 21 points off the bench, and I thought he was just poised. This was one of the better games from him. He was just poised. He was able to get in there and be able to create shots, knock down some shots, as we saw the big shot, to give them the lead and eventually probably the game winner if something else didn't happen. But Dennis Schroder, I thought he played great with poise. Played excellent, really. In this, usually he's up and down or streaky or has an inefficient night, but he was really efficient, got to the line, was able to be aggressive against the Minnesota Timberwolves without much rim protection. So he was able to do that and pay dividends for the Lakers, also knocking down a big shot. But the biggest thing in the game was at the end of the game, especially when after Dennis Schroder and LeBron hits Dennis Schroder for the three, and they get that opportunity to win the game, on the ensuing possession, Anthony Davis does it again. He fouls a three-point shooter with the game on the line. He did it against Utah against, I think it was Lauri Markkanen. I think he fouled on the three-point line in a game that LeBron wasn't playing. I think LeBron was telling him to go to that side. He ended up just bull rushing Mike Conley, trying to close out, and ends up making contact with him. And Mike Conley, cool as a cucumber at the free throw line. It was the first one was a little shaky, but he was able to go down there and knock down all three free throws and was able to force overtime. So you sit there and you look at that, and it's just like the Lakers. I was ready to troll Laker fans, and they were able to pull it out in the overtime as the Minnesota Timberwolves again just couldn't score, just couldn't find anything on that offensive end once it reached that. I think they only scored 4 points in the overtime. So to sit there and see that for Minnesota, who now has to turn around and face a tough, valiant team coming up, who I'll talk about in a little bit. To see that turnaround is just like, damn, they had every opportunity to win that game in LA on the road without all the stuff going on, right? Like Rudy Gobert is punching teammates, McDaniels punching the wall and breaking his hand, like all these things that they have to try to overcome, and they had a chance to win, and they just didn't do it. They had stagnant offense late, and really just couldn't get anything going. Anthony Edwards having one of the worst games. He was up on the defensive end, but something was going on with his shoulder where he just couldn't get going, and that sucks for Minnesota. As for LA, now they get to face Memphis. That's a favorable matchup. They have a size advantage there. Memphis is kind of reeling, but we'll see. We'll talk about that in when we get closer to the playoffs, actually. But we'll move on. But LA got the win there. Moving on to face Memphis. Minnesota will face OKC, who I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, that's it. That's it for the Lakers. The Lakers are moving on.